Before the solo, there is silence. And in that silence, there is power. Now, this is a concept that I think people can use in their everyday life. It's not just in music, it can be in conversation, it can be in how you carry yourself. Think before you speak, think before you play, and be in control of what you do. Like I said, this is something that you can carry into your everyday life, and it's a powerful thing that I learned over time. When you're a young player or you're a young person, you're quick to react with emotion. You're quick to, oh, it's my time to solo, and you just immediately start flying around the neck, playing as many notes or talking as much as possible and giving way too much information and not pacing yourself. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. And the same could be said for a solo. Now, in my later years, I learned to solo by first allowing silence. It's the spaces that you leave between notes, that you leave between licks, show great wisdom. If you're playing with a great band, if you're playing with a great rhythm section, a great drummer, a great bass player, they are going to play such amazing things that if you listen, they will inspire you and make you play better. But if you're constantly playing, if you're constantly filling every space, you're not truly listening. You have not evolved. And you must evolve as a player. Nobody wants to play. I don't want to play how I played when I was 18 years old. Uh, yeah, I might have had lots of energy and I might have been faster and all of those things, but man, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I lacked maturity in my playing, and I don't want to go through life being one thing. Now, there are times when it's time to rip and it's time to let fly and not allow a lot of space. Certain types of songs, certain types of certain genres, and certain things sometimes dictate that approach. But understand that if you know where the spaces are, you allow the music to breathe, that you're going to show great maturity and confidence. It's everyone's waiting for you when it's your time to solo. Everybody's waiting on you to do something. And just like, perhaps a love interest in your life, sometimes lingering, sometimes lingering and not giving them all the information right away, sometimes not spilling your heart out every single moment can lead to a greater and deeper relationship. You don't always want to show your hand, and you can often, build a solo. Think of it. Look, I'm not talking about a pop song where you've got 15 seconds to play a nice melodic little earworm that's going to sit in your thing. That's a whole different approach. I'm talking about playing real music with real musicians, creating on the spot an improvised solo and improvised masterpiece. And if you've got time to build a solo like that and you're playing in a situation, you're playing with great musicians, sometimes the best thing you can do is start the solo with space and start at the lowest dynamic point. Perhaps a single note played with precision in an exact spot with perfect intonation, perfect vibrato, or lack thereof can show great wisdom and great depth in your playing. And you know what? If you're somebody who likes to start off their solos just ripping and ripping and ripping, try this one time. Try it. Try starting your solo with one note, letting it sustained, have a pleasing vibrato, be in control of your fingers. Don't let your fingers control you. Try something different. It's something that I think a lot of young players just haven't experienced. Maybe they haven't played in the right situation. Maybe they haven't had older musicians to mentor them. And I think that's important. If you get on a gig and there's a young player, sometimes a young player is brought up to sit in with a band of veterans. And, the kid is going to if the kid goes up there and plays anything remotely sounding good, the audience is going to just act like they just seen God because they've seen this young kid that's full of talent and all that. And it can be hard. Somebody, that age could get inside their head and start believing the hype. Look, we all know when you're young, people are going to love anything you do. It's like a cute kid coming in and singing a song out of key. Everyone's like, "Oh, isn't that so cute? Isn't that wonderful?" But you've got to evolve from that point. You've got to seek to improve. Your playing has to mature. Nobody wants to hear a 13-year-old kid at level of playing when you're a 30-year-old guitar player. And so evolving and realizing that the space, the silence is power, and showing control to not run up and down the neck, but wait till the appropriate time to do that. That can be some of the most best advice that I can give anyone. And it, like I said, this channel is sort of the philosophy of guitar, but it also relates to everyday life. If you're confronted with a problem and it becomes your time to improvise a solution, to improvise an answer, start with a single word. Well, I must think about this. And what I think, see, that already is a much calmer approach than going, well, what you need to do is everyone needs to do this. And if you guys are all idiots. That approach will not win you any fans. The approach of, well, this is quite a situation we are in. And what we must do is think this thing through. And we must think and realize we have several options. And the first option is we do this. And the second option is we can do this. And the third option is we do this. Now, if we do the first option, here is what could happen. Think through each step. If we do the second option, this is what could happen. These are the repercussions of doing that. And if we do the third option, this is what could result. And analyze what will happen by you doing that. And it's the same thing with a guitar solo. You're having a conversation with the audience. You're having a conversation. You're telling the audience a story, but you're having a conversation with the band. They're interjecting and they're adding their 2 cents. I mean, if you're playing with great players, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Not everybody we play with is capable of that level of musical conversation. But you must, think about, hey, what would happen, if I start my solo just shredding from point A to point B and not allow any space. And that could get an immense reaction from the audience. But if you did that all night, their ears would get fatigued. Their ears would get tired. Now I get it. If you're playing an hour-long show and you get one moment in the show to shine, then maybe allowing a lot of silence and a lot of space is perhaps not the right approach. But I'm talking about a band that's got to play somewhere all night. If you've got to play 4 hours in a night, giving all the information right out of the gate, and every time you soloing, running up and down the neck. I mean, that's one way to do it. But there are going to be some people, it's going to be overload after a while. It's like that Fusion album that you love to listen to and you marvel at how amazing it is, but you can only take so much. It's like all of the Instagram players that are doing all these amazing things, but you can only take so much. And sometimes that heartfelt note played with emotion, the right note at the right time, can be a greater way of expressing yourself. What is the greatest note ever played on guitar? It's perhaps that long, sustained note in Machine Gun, Jimi Hendrix with the Band of Gypsies. It's, in my opinion, it's the greatest note ever played on a guitar. Now, something could come along in the future that will do that, but look, the tools of the trade at the time, the Marshall Stack, the Fuzz Face, I think there's Univibe on that. Those things aren't the same anymore. People aren't going on stage with Marshall Stacks and Univibes. I mean, maybe there's some retro bands out there that are doing stuff like that. If you know of one, let me know in the comments. But the tools of the trade were much different in Jimmy's day, and you could coax that amount of sustain out of this huge, Marshall Stack that makes it sound like you're playing an electric violin with all the warble and sustain and torment that Jimi Hendrix coaxes out of his instrument. And that is one of the greatest things ever played on an electric guitar. One note. The rest of the solo is great, but it's that one note. It's the control that he exhibits. It's the fact that, he doesn't have to overplay, yet he is heard. It's silence and space and showing maturity in your playing can be one of the greatest things that you can ever do as a player. And the most important thing is, before you solo, realize before you solo there is silence. And if you're going to break that silence, make sure that every note counts.